The faint hum of fluorescent lights filled the quiet school hallway as Noah Whitman adjusted his tie nervously. He hated parent-teacher nights. Not because he didn't care, he cared too much. Being a single dad to Eli, his 7-year-old, meant juggling 2 jobs, late nights, and constant exhaustion. Tonight, he wasn't here as a confident man. He was here as the parent who always felt slightly out of place among well-dressed couples and confident mothers. The scuffed shoes he wore had seen better days, but he had shined them anyway. Noah tucked Eli's drawing folder under his arm, trying to hide the ink smudges on his sleeves. He stepped into the brightly lit classroom, filled with chatter and soft laughter. Parents stood in pairs, smiling at colorful charts pinned to the walls. Then his heart froze. Standing by the window, elegantly poised in a cream blazer, was Clara Monroe, his first love. The girl he had once dreamed of building a life with. The woman he lost more than a decade ago when their paths had torn apart. For a moment, time stopped. The noise, the laughter, everything blurred. All he could see was her, the way her auburn hair shimmered under the classroom light, the same eyes that once made him believe love could heal anything. He had spent years trying to forget, but seeing her now brought everything rushing back like a wave crashing over a fragile dam. If you believe in kindness, fate, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. This story is for everyone who still believes love finds its way back, even after years apart. Clara turned, scanning the room, her confident smile faltering as her eyes met his. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then her lips parted slightly, her breath catching in quiet shock. The world outside that classroom could have stopped turning, and neither would have noticed. She was no longer the university student he'd met in that old campus library. She was now Clara Monroe, CEO of Monroe Tech, a company he'd only ever read about in the business news he scrolled through during lunch breaks. The headlines had called her unstoppable, brilliant, untouchable. But the woman looking at him now didn't look untouchable. She looked undone. Noah shifted, unsure if he should walk away or stay. "Miss Monroe," the teacher said politely, calling her to the discussion table. Clara blinked, collecting herself, offering a polite nod before sitting across from the teacher. Noah waited for his turn, his chest tight with something that felt too much like the past. When it was finally his time, he sat down across from the teacher, unaware Clara was still standing nearby, half listening. "Eli is bright," the teacher began warmly. "Creative, thoughtful, and very kind. You're doing a great job, Mr. Whitman." He smiled faintly, but his mind was elsewhere. Back in those old college days when he and Clara would talk for hours under the stars, planning a life that never came to be. They were inseparable until his mother got sick and he dropped out to take care of her. Clara had gone abroad on a scholarship. Letters had turned into silence, and silence into years. When he finally looked up again, Clara was gone. He exhaled, half relieved, half aching. But as he walked toward the exit, a familiar voice stopped him. "Noah?" He turned slowly. She was standing by the door, holding a folder, her eyes softer now. "It really is you," she said quietly. "I thought I was imagining it." Noah nodded, unsure what to say. "Yeah, it's been a long time." "It has," she whispered. The silence between them felt heavy, filled with words they hadn't said for years. "I didn't know you had a child." "Yeah, Eli's my world," he said, his voice gentler now. "It's just us." Clara's smile wavered. "You're doing a good job. He seems happy." "He's got a good heart," Noah replied, glancing toward the classroom window. "Takes after his mom." Clara looked down. "And you? Still painting?" He almost laughed. Not much time for that now. Between work and school pickups, brushes gathered dust. Her eyes softened. "You were always the one who saw beauty where others didn't." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the compliment. "Life changes people." "Yes," she said quietly, "it does." Days passed, but the encounter lingered in both their minds. Clara couldn't stop thinking about how weary his eyes had looked, yet how calm his voice remained. She had built an empire, but her world felt empty, a string of meetings and polished smiles that never reached her heart. Seeing Noah again cracked something open. The man she'd loved had weathered storms she couldn't imagine. 2 weeks later, she found herself at Eli's school again, this time as a guest speaker for Career Day. Standing before the class, she caught sight of Eli's proud smile, and then Noah, standing quietly at the back of the room, his expression unreadable. She spoke about leadership and innovation, but her heart was in chaos. When the talk ended and the applause faded, Noah approached her. "You were great," he said genuinely. "The kids loved it," she smiled. "Including yours?" "He hasn't stopped talking about Miss CEO since last night." Clara laughed softly, her first real laugh in months. "I'm glad." They stood there for a moment, caught between nostalgia and the present. Then Clara said, "Would you let me buy you coffee, just to catch up?" He hesitated. The practical part of him screamed to decline. Old wounds didn't need reopening. But something in her eyes, something fragile, made him nod. Sure. They met the next afternoon at a small cafe near the river. The sunlight reflected off the water, painting golden ripples on the walls. She ordered chamomile tea, the same she used to love. He smiled faintly, remembering. "I looked you up once," she admitted, "years ago. I didn't have much to find," he said simply. "I work construction during the day, and I help at the community art center on weekends. That's about it." Her eyes glistened. "You're still creating beauty, Noah. That matters." He looked at her, genuinely moved. "And you? You did everything you said you would." She smiled sadly. "And lost more than I expected along the way." They talked for hours, slipping between laughter and old memories, between the people they were and the ones they'd become. She told him about her failed engagement, how success had felt hollow without love. He told her about Eli's mother leaving when Eli was just a baby, and how he'd spent years piecing himself together for his son. As they parted that evening, she said softly, "Maybe we were meant to find each other again, different people, same hearts." He didn't answer. But when she walked away, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope. Over the next few weeks, Clara started showing up more often, dropping by the art center, donating supplies to Eli's school, even joining Noah and Eli for small weekend outings. She was careful, gentle, as if afraid of breaking the fragile bond forming between them. Noah too began to soften. For years he had built walls around his heart, but Clara's presence felt like sunlight through cracks. One sunny afternoon, Eli invited her to his school play. She arrived early, sitting beside Noah in the crowded gym. When the curtain rose and Eli appeared on stage in a paper crown, Noah's eyes shimmered with pride. Clara glanced at him, and for the first time she saw the man she'd fallen in love with, not the man time had weathered. After the play, Eli ran into Clara's arms. "You came," he said, grinning wide. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," she smiled, hugging him tight. Noah stood beside them, his heart full and aching all at once. That night, after walking her to her car, Clara turned to him. "You've changed, Noah, but in all the right ways." He smiled softly. "You've changed too. You carry the world on your shoulders now. Maybe I'm ready to set it down," she whispered. "If the right person asked me to." He looked at her then, really looked. "I don't have much to offer, Clara. Just a small life. Simple." She reached out, touching his hand gently. "That's all I ever wanted." Weeks turned into months. The three of them, Noah, Clara, and Eli, became inseparable. Clara started spending quiet Sundays with them, helping Eli with homework, watching Noah paint again for the first time in years. The laughter that had once been missing from their lives slowly returned. But not everything was easy. When word spread that the CEO of Monroe Tech was seeing a construction worker, the tabloids circled like vultures. Clara's board questioned her choices. One evening, exhausted and frustrated, she showed up at Noah's doorstep, tears in her eyes. "They don't understand," she said. "They think I'm making a mistake." Noah held her gaze calmly. "Then prove them wrong. You're stronger than their opinions." She smiled faintly through tears. "You really think so?" He nodded. "I always have." In that moment, under the warm porch light, she leaned into him, and for the first time in years, everything felt right again. The world could talk. They didn't care. A few months later, on a bright spring morning, the school held its annual art fair. Noah stood proudly by Eli's painting while Clara helped set up the display. The painting showed a man, a woman, and a little boy under a golden sun, with the words "My family" written in bright blue paint. Clara turned to Noah, her eyes full of quiet tears. "He sees us that way," she whispered. Noah smiled, emotion tightening his voice. "Maybe he sees what I was too scared to admit." Clara looked at him, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for his. "And what's that?" "That I'm falling again," he said softly. She smiled through tears. "Then maybe this time we don't let go."